Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news service. Our queer shows have reached over 10 million viewers.
We are proud to have more than 1,000 new subscribers in the last month, and that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ+ brand in Florida.
Over 500,000 of you have watched this show in the last 90 days. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ community. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Tuesday, May 6th. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Well, welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of the LGBTQ+ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, senior, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ television stories. We will produce the 25th anniversary of our Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. We present Pride Fete in August and Pride Fort Lauderdale in February. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader communities.
In 2025, more than 100 community leaders across our community will act as anchors to show support for the LGBTQ community. Let's meet today's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Well, let's welcome anchor Angel Martinez. Angel is a passionate mental health advocate and policy change enthusiast from Miami. A proud Cuban, Nicaraguan American, he champions LGBTQIA+ causes and the Stonewall movement with humor, drive, and a fierce dedication to justice. Angel Pride sets sail aboard the Celebrity Beyond from Miami on June 8th. Tell me what's happening.
Yeah, so Celebrity Cruises is celebrating Pride Month at sea from June 8th to the 15th aboard the luxurious Celebrity Beyond. Departing from Port Miami, this vibrant LGBTQ+ themed cruise sets sail to St. Martin, St. Juan, and the perfect day at Coco Cay. Part of the Celebrities' month-long fleet-wide celebration, the event includes daily LGBTQ+ meetups, a flag-raising ceremony, and the iconic Pride Party at sea. Guests will enjoy world-class dining, open-air lounges, and entertainment from guest performers. As the third ship in the Edge series, Celebrity Beyond promises a stylish, inclusive voyage. Tickets start at $1,095. For more information, visit miamiandbeaches.com.
Well, it's very exciting. Celebrity is actually, I have been on, no exaggeration, probably 200 ships.
Wow.
Not cruises, ships. And Celebrity is my favorite cruise line. I really appreciate Celebrity's commitment to June Pride Month in a time where we are watching so many corporate structures try to follow the whims of the leadership in America of rejecting DEI and diversity and inclusion, Celebrity is making really a bold statement, I think, for our community. Is cruising something you enjoy doing?
I, unfortunately, am still a very hardworking guy trying to get to retirement age, so cruising has not been an available option for me at the time, but I truly have a lot of friends that do cruising, and I cruise vibrantly through them, and I appreciate, any organization willing to support the community.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, like the cruise ships, right? These collaborations, right, with the LGBTQ plus community, and hosting Pride Month, right? I mean, that's big for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need companies to step up. We need companies to show support, right? That's solidarity. That's dollars, right?
And it's employees, and it's families of employees,
and I know this will come as a big shock to you, being travel and entertainment, but there's a couple of LGBT people that work for cruise lines.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. A lot people. So we thank Celebrity for what they're doing in June Pride Month. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you aboard Celebrity Beyond from Miami on June 8th. Well, now let's welcome anchor Buddy Frey. He supports many of South Florida's local nonprofit organizations like Julian's Fountain of Youth and the Stonewall National Library Museum. Buddy, Wilton Manors is hosting its 8th annual Pride Bar Crawl on June 21st. Tell me what's happening.
Well, on Saturday, June 21st, from 4 p.m. to midnight, Wilton Manors will burst with color and celebration at the 8th annual official Pride Bar Crawl. Held at the pub on the drive, the 21-year-old plus event promises drinking, dancing, and a vibrant tribute to love and inclusion. Organized for Pride Month, all attendees will enjoy 2 to 3 drinks or shots, exclusive specials, professional photos, and access to an epic after party. With no cover charges and themed swag like stadium cups and badges, the crawl winds through some of the area's most inclusive bars. Tickets start at only $10. For details, go to www.crawlwithus.com.
Big bar crawl fan, are you?
Well, I've been known to have a drink or two in my life, and Wilton Manors is the perfect place because it's a walkable town, and you have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Angel, bar crawler, are you?
Yeah, well, looking to get in some good trouble.
Good trouble. Yes,
trouble.
That is certainly true. One of the things that I smiled when you were doing this story, because I do apparently bar crawls frequently, and they're not even officially a bar crawl.
Oh, really?
So this event is official, and it makes it special because it's official. I joke, of course, but doing it on...
You joke a little.
Yeah, just a little. June 21st is a great time. June 14th, you want to come to Stonewall Pride. Right. It will be a mega bar crawl with 60,000 of your closest friends. And then the following week, this is a fun event because I have actually been to one of the organized pub crawls that this organization does. It's great because it's all pre-planned. Mm-hmm. And so the bars are ready. They know how to deliver. It's good value.
Very safe.
And it's safe and it's a lot of fun.
I mean, you don't have to be somebody who has to drink at every bar. I mean, this is meant for everybody. So even if you're not a heavy drinker, this is about celebrating with your friends and having fun along the way.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a single word you said. Well, that is a big LGBT story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Wilton Manors 8th Annual Pride Bar Crawl on June 21st.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Al Ferguson. Al has worked with RuPaul's Drag Race, cruise and travel programs for 8 years, and then came to Hotspots Happening Out to work on the television development of Happening Out television network. He is the creator of It's Happening Out, FayWhat show. I hope I did Fay good on that. Queer God Squad, and this program, Queer News Tonight. He is the Hot Spots Happening Out Vice President of Community Development. Al, the online Allyship workshop to support trans and non-binary people, is happening on May 13th. Please tell me what's happening.
Well, it's very important. On Tuesday, May 13th from 7 to 9 p.m., an online workshop for the Allyship to transgender and non-binary people in a post-election world will guide participants in supporting trans and non-binary communities. Hosted virtually, the 75-minute session includes myth-busting talking points and a Q&A. Attendees will explore current threats to the trans rights and issues that affect the trans community. You will learn how to advocate for trans youth and adults and gain practical tools to be effective allies. Open to all, the event welcomes both new and experienced allies for the trans community. General admission is $22.50, with more information available at Eventbrite. This is really super important. I always make the joke in Wilton Manors, as an older, privileged, white, gay guy on Wilton Drive, I'll be okay. I know you know what I'm talking about. We're okay. The trans community is the most marginalized, the most attacked, marginalized community in America.
And the smallest.
And the smallest. And the exaggeration of the effect of the boogeyman in the trans community has been created, and a story reinforced and created. And what the trans community needs more than anything else is good allies. And this workshop helps you learn how to do that.
And it's welcome. I'm actually thinking about hearing about it more and probably maybe paying a little more attention to it. Because I'm constantly being asked by my Republican family, what the hell's going on and how dare you? And now I'm like, now I have the tools and the information.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBT stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at the online Allyship workshop to support trans and non-binary people on May 13th. Well, now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Al Ferguson, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. The Stonewall executive director sees 55 years of Pride celebration as freedom now threatened. It's been 55 years since the uprising at the Stonewall Inn in New York City sparked a global movement for LGBTQ rights. But this year, Pride is more than a celebration. It's a protest again. Robert Keston, a human rights activist and executive director of the Stonewall National Museum, Archives, and Library in Fort Lauderdale, is sounding the alarm. In an article that he has written for the Miami Herald, Keston says, quote, "In a nation that has pushed for greater individual freedoms, even when difficult, it is hard to accept a United States that is closing doors rather than opening them," end quote. From a few brave marchers in 1970 to millions around the globe, Pride has evolved, remembering the past, honoring identity and fighting for justice. But now, Keston warns, quote, "With the official death of political DEI, corporations and foundations have left or limited their support of Pride's and other LGBTQ+ activities," end quote. He points to a worrying hand, silence, replacing progress in places where Pride once marched. Examples he gives are Moscow, Uganda, and even here in the United States. Still, there's hope, according to Keston. He believes Pride 2025 can re-energize us and rekindle the Stonewall flame. That's a quote from Keston. This June, under the rainbow flag, we don't just celebrate, we resist. I read his op-ed in the Miami Herald, and I thought it was quite good. He hits a bullseye of something that we're having difficulty addressing. We have to have our allies outside of our community. We're not enough by ourselves. We are the starting point. We're the match. But we have to have allies. And one of the things that radical GOP, our governor in Florida, our president at the White House, they have been highly effective in these radical point of views of the rejection of diversity and inclusion. And that strategy is something that our activism in the United States for LGBT has not been really good on. It has been slow to respond to it. And they've created an anchor on the beachhead, and it's been successful.
Well, I agree to that in points. I come with a little bit of different background. I've been doing nonprofit work since I was in college in the 80s. I helped establish, or was one of the first people to help establish, a local group in St. Louis called EFA, Effort Foundation for AIDS in St. Louis. I watched a number of people die over those years in the 80s and 90s. And I myself established a nonprofit years ago that my partner at the time and I grew for children's charities and any grassroots organization. I think in addition to what you have said there, I think the gay community at large has failed itself in terms of educating itself. The pictures you showed of Robert at the Stonewall Library, if you looked at that room, it was 75 and above, and it was white. We are not doing a fair job outside of the bars and the celebrations and the pride fests and the fun things in the gay community. Yeah. We have failed ourselves to reach out to all of the different groups that make up the LGBT community, but we've also failed to reach out to those people other than to ask for money. We don't discuss enough the history that we have, that we've been around since the beginning of dawn. We don't discuss how the Nazi Germans created all of the marketing materials that are being used against us today. All the stereotypes are a tool that the Nazis created prior to World War II to help decimate the gay community and keep us with pink triangles in the camps. We have failed to reach out to the black community and said we share a lot of common things, or the Latin community, however big you want to define that. I don't want to be specific to
Latino, Hispanic.
Latino, Hispanic. But we have failed, and then we've also failed to reach out to politicians other than an election year. Our community has failed itself, and we still don't know how to talk about marriage. Marriage is not about a religious ceremony for the gay community, it's a legal ceremony. So we can inherit, and we can have rights, and we can have pensions and shared combined resources for our loved ones and our insular formulas. We've been 50 years successful, growing over those 50 years. Now we're being challenged again, and I only hope that younger people and people of color and people, our straight allies, our families and our parents and our bosses and all the different jobs that we hold, we have to re-educate those people and say, this isn't about you losing things. This is about us joining the table.
Yeah.
This is our history. We have died.
I'm curious, Angel, to that challenge that Buddy puts out there, you know, and I have a very clear picture as a big supporter of Robert Keston and the Stonewall Museum. I know and
I support him as well.
In your work. There's a challenge to your generation. How do you take that the Stonewall Museum is not relevant to your age group in LGBT?
I don't know. I mean, I'm one of the, I come out, right? Like I stand out in that I do value Stonewall. I do value the history of the Stonewall. I think I'm very big on supporting Stonewall, and it's because it's a movement. It's a movement. And I think the younger generation, they don't realize that. They're stuck on Grindr. They're stuck on, you know, the pride festivals. They're stuck on, you know, having
the bars.
fun. The bars is great. This is all great, but
but it's history.
It's history, and we need to go over that. And it's unfortunate, but to add on, right, like I've just looked up a little bit of the timeline, right, of corporate DEI initiatives, right. On January 24th, Target curbed its LGBTQ plus pride merchandise line. On January 17th, the FBI, you know, closed its DEI office. On February 10th, PBS shuttered its diversity, inclusion, and equity office, right? Coca-Cola now too, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Bank of America, right?
Anheuser-Busch.
Right, these companies, it's like a domino effect, right? I mean, people my generation, they're not understanding right now. Corporate America is turning its back on you. And so I would love to have conversations with people my age and say, guys, you know, let's get off of Grindr and let's, like, you know, do activism, let's do political engagement, let's do voter registration.
But let's also do our history so that we know we have to figure out how to talk to these organizations and present ourselves.
We need to understand how to talk to the youth and the younger generations that are going to inherit the Stonewall movement. And it's, to me, I look around and I'm just like, I'm sorry, Al, like, they're not responding. They're just not responding. I don't like to be the one, like, speaking out. You know, sometimes I feel like there's so many younger people that would do better in my seat, right? Would do better here speaking on behalf of, you know, younger people, but they don't want to sometimes. And it's kind of hard to shake it out of them. Not everyone like that.
That's exactly what Robert Keston does from the Stonewall Museum, is ringing the alarm.
Right.
We've had 50 great years of success since 1969. The last 5 have,
and it's been slow success, gradual success.
Yeah.
But I think that Robert's got the right idea. It's gonna smack us back a bit. It's gonna sting and hurt. People are gonna get sick. People are gonna die. People are gonna get hurt. But I think it's gonna help the community come back to the table, as we all need to be.
Yeah. Well, we certainly, a core purpose of Queer News Tonight is to bring the community
That's why we're
back
here
to the table. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Our LGBTQ stories need to be followed, and you do that by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for Jay. I'm Buddy Frey, and let's queer up entertainment. The Met Gala represents the most queer moments in history. When it comes to high fashion, drama, and bold statements, the queer community doesn't just attend the Met Gala, they define it, and define it well. From iconic entrances to political fashion statements, LGBTQ stars have left their heels, hats, and hearts on the Met steps, creating some of the most unforgettable looks in the event's history. Let's start with Andrew Scott, Janelle Monáe, Cole Escola, and Coleman Domingo, who stunned at the 2024 Gala. Simone's 2021 look was an explosion of beauty and power, while Dan Levy attended the 2021 Met Gala celebrating In America, a lexicon of fashion. Lady Gaga in 2019 delivered multiple looks in one, an entire performance art piece. Lena Waithe made 2 powerful appearances, one in 2018 and another in 2019. How can we forget the late fashion legend Andre Leon Talley in 2004? Billy Porter's unforgettable 2019 entrance and Lil Nas X's appearance in 2021? Designer Simone Porte, Jacquemus, and Bad Bunny appeared on the Met Gala red carpet in 2023. Even allies like Cardi B gave the queer community life with her in 2019. Needless to say, at the Met Gala, queer stars don't just walk the red carpet, they own it. So which Met Gala moment was your favorite? Last night, the Met Gala 2025 saw several prominent queer moments, especially with the theme of superfine tailoring, black style, which highlighted black dandyism and black queer excellence. Celebrities like Coleman Domingo, Doechii, and Kendall Jenner made notable appearances celebrating the theme and their personal styles. The event also featured a blue carpet with daffodils, a flower linked to dandyism and queer culture, further emphasizing the theme's relevance. I mean, come on. We're the gay community.
Come on.
I mean, Jesus.
Right.
You know, we're the gay community. We are creative at heart, and we explode with drama. Please. I mean, I'm surprised RuPaul wasn't up there at some...
She has been.
She's been there. But I'm just like, you know, of course we own the damn carpet. We built that carpet with blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of laughter along the way.
The designers especially built that carpet
Yes.
because overwhelmingly the male fashion designers in the last 50 years have been LGBT, have been gay men.
And it's super important this year because dandyism is a 1920s to 1940s movement in the African American community, mostly in Harlem, where they showed style outperformed what you could afford. You know, you chose your style based on what it was, and you made it something special. And I applaud the fact that they took that and ran with it, and then especially the black queer community of the 1920s to the 1940s made it. Yeah. So
I'm curious,
applause.
Angel, had you heard that phrase before? It's been popular for the last week. Dandy and dandyism. Is that a phrase you had heard before?
Never heard of it before.
Yeah.
I mean, it right. Like I looked up a little bit to see, just like some of the looks, right? So, Cardi B. I don't know if that was the era they were looking for. Her designer, Daniel Lee, he mimicked a Victorian kind of gown. So is that what they were looking at?
Yeah, it was
a regal kind of.
It's all about
Showy.
It was showing in the black community that
Peacocking.
you had, exactly, that you had style, and style wasn't necessarily based upon how much you could afford.
Okay.
It was about creating style that made you stand out.
Okay.
It's about being creative, regardless of who you were in society.
So it's kind of like, I mean, I've watched the show Pose, right?
Yes.
It's kind of like Pose.
Yes,
Okay.
kind of like Pose. I mean, that's a modern version of
Modern.
dandyism.
It's a more modern version. The most powerful fashion voice in the world is Anna Wintour. And the executive editor of Vogue, it's one of the Condé Nast magazines. I was never a big fan of hers until this year. She's the inspiration of The Devil Wears Prada.
Exactly.
The character, Meryl Streep's character in The Devil Wears Prada is Anna Wintour. Not a big fan of the character. It was an amazing performance, but not a big fan of how she operated and treats. And you wonder if she was that. This year, she softens my heart a little. And the reason is because it was very brave. This year, beyond the spectacular things that we watched on the carpet last night at the Met Gala, she softens my heart a little because she was so brave. She flies in the face of the rejection of diversity and inclusion with the Met Gala. So without being overtly political, without smacking Donald Trump, who was a New Yorker, in the mouth, she said, let's look at diversity and inclusion in a different way, and finds the thread to do it via fashion. And that's the reason I ask you about dandyism. I just want to point out a couple of things that maybe our viewers are not aware of. Dandy is a word that I was familiar with, but it is a negative word. It is calling you faggot, queer, effeminate. It's using, especially in the black community, you're a dandy from the 1920s. It was a slur. Dandyism was a reflection of peacocking in Harlem.
Showing off just a little bit.
And showing off just enough. And whether somebody agrees with the observation I just made on the word of dandy and dandyism, okay, well, that's up to your opinion. But Anna Wintour makes the decision that we're going to focus on this fashion moment in American history, just 20 blocks north of the Metropolitan in New York, in Harlem, and celebrating black men especially, and black gay men especially.
And lesbians, because black lesbians are known for the dandyism.
Oh,
and the tuxedos.
now see, I didn't know that.
I challenge you on the whole bit about it wasn't a political statement, because I've been reading reports that Anna Wintour goes out of her way to smack Donald.
Oh, well, no, wait.
So,
I don't mean that it wasn't a political statement.
Oh,
I
it was
mean,
a huge...
She went in a very sophisticated...
Yes, exactly.
Probably over his head in understanding of how political it was. And so that's one of the reasons I have new respect for the devil who is wearing Prada. Because she did this
very well, very eloquently.
She did it very, very well. Yeah,
I just wanted to go over my favorite look, right?
Yeah, sure.
Just wanted quick, right? So Bad Bunny, right? We also have allies at these galas.
Exactly.
Bad Bunny is one of my favorite, right?
Yeah.
He's the hottie caliente, heartthrob, right? But he wore, I'm just wanted to say his look, right? Bad Bunny wore an all brown custom Prada suit featuring a double-breasted crop blazer. He accessorized his look with a brown straw hat, golden bedazzled gloves and sunglasses, and a leather bag by his side. So, we have allies. We have allies in the community. We have heartthrob allies. He's not necessarily a member of the community, right? He expressed publicly that he is a heterosexual, but he did say in a 2020 interview with Los Angeles Times that at the end of the day, I don't know if in 20 years I will like a man. One never knows in life, but at the moment I am heterosexual and I like women, end quote.
Fabulous.
So, we have allies.
One of the things to close the story conversation up that I think is really interesting in this dire kind of time that we are at. I encourage you to not only watch the carpet entrance, the media entrance, the canyon into the Metropolitan, the costuming is amazing, but go to your Google machine and type in dandyism and read about what the Devil Wears Prada was trying to tell all of us. It'll make you smile if you do that. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by supporting and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Angel Martinez, and let's queer up entertainment. Lady Gaga's Brazil concert faced a bomb plot against the LGBT community as she breaks an all-time record. In a historic night for music and LGBTQ plus pride, Lady Gaga made headlines on Saturday for breaking the all-time attendance record for a female artist. But the celebration came under a dark cloud. Authorities in Rio de Janeiro have confirmed that Gaga's Copacabana beach concert drew an astonishing 2.1 million fans, surpassing even Madonna's 1.6 million turnout last year. But what fans didn't know until later was that local police reportedly foiled a bomb plot targeting the queer community attending the event. The details remain under investigation, but the threat has sparked serious concern. Still, Gaga took the stage with strength and heart, dedicating her career-defining mayhem ball set to LGBTQ fans across Brazil and the world, performing hits like Born This Way and Vanish Into You. She waved a pride flag and got visibly emotional with her dancers as fans filled the night sky with love, fireworks, and an impromptu encore of Bad Romance. Despite the threat, Lady Gaga and her little monsters made it a night to remember, not just for breaking records, but for standing proud, loud, and queer under the stars of Copacabana Beach. So, I looked up a little bit, as far as, because this is something that when I've spoken to a lot of Brazilians that they mention, right, the inequality in Brazil, right? So the Gini coefficient is the coefficient that defines the percentage of inequality in a country, right? And Brazil has one of the highest Gini coefficients, right? It's at 52%, right? Places like this, right? Brazil, right? As a country, right? Usually when we look at kind of broader around the world, the more this coefficient goes up, right? The worse it is. The bad sentiment, right? Because typically our community is scapegoated, right? When economic conditions are bad, when the economy's bad, when, things are unequal, right? We tend to get scapegoated in these, right? So, if you look at just around the world, right? Europe, right? Where these Gini coefficients are more stable, the economies are more stable, more fair, right? You have broader acceptance of the LGBTQ plus community. Brazil, it's unfortunate, but I don't really see, I look at Brazil as just its economy and its government and the way it is, right? How unstable it is at this point in time. And I'm not surprised that there was a bomb threat. I wish that we had more acceptance in countries like Brazil, right? I wish that, that didn't happen. I mean, it's also like when I think of the U.S., right? I hope that this is not a backlash to Trump, right? We are the U.S. So I wonder where, as a country, right, we're the U.S., we're the largest military power, we're one of the greatest economic powers. Is this Is this an after effect of the Trump administration? Is this regurgitating across the world? Right? Is this just a,
I think it might be you might make a connect a dot between Donald Trump's politics and Brazil's challenges.
Yeah.
I can't find I haven't done any homework to it. Europe has been backlashing against Donald Trump because lately the last few elections have been the exact opposite of Donald.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Australia just this week.
And there was another, Canada. Canada last week or the week before. So I don't know Brazil well enough to be able to make that correlation.
Yeah.
I just think it might be the fact that there would have been, 2.1 million people. Can you imagine the devastation and the damage you could do during a concert like that? Because it's not just however you kill these people or hurt these people, but it's also the mass chaos that you create and the people being hurt
more the
from that
event.
chaos.
Yeah.
And I think it's more Lady Gaga and her and aimed at her because of her obvious talents and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a hodgepodge and it's in part of the equation or the recipe of the whole event. But I just think that, we need to be thankful for Gaga and we need to be thankful for the police of Brazil for doing their job and not saying, oh, it's not important enough.
Yeah.
And, and just be thankful that nobody was hurt.
It's funny, and especially, Angel, to your note, I actually see tremendous positives in this story. I've been to Brazil many times. I've been to Copacabana Beach. I've stayed right on Copacabana Beach. First, I think one of the great portions of this story is not the 2.1 million people, but how much and how important it was to Gaga. Mm-hmm. I watched several things. I watched a lot about this concert, actually, and how emotional she got. She brought her full LGBT to this concert. There was just no question about it. There was no hiding anything in terms of her identity in this event. And for the country to eclipse Madonna's record from last year is really a feat. And not only eclipsed it, just crushed it. This was a crushing success for Gaga. And I think that's partially one of the reasons why she was so emotional, is that she was representing all of us, our entire community. And she knows what's going on in America. And in some places around the world. The one thing that I also think is really important about this moment of the concert is, thank God, this whatever it was, it's coming out.
Slowly.
Gaga has commented on it again today specifically. We don't know all of the details, so I'll wait till I hear more of the details to comment on the threat. But I think it is very positive for all of us because it's a representation of something we can hang our hats on of positivity. They had a president, as we have quickly forgotten, called Bolsonaro, and he was Donald Trump Brazilian. And Bolsonaro was fraudulent and illegal and would lie at hand and would manipulate at hand and would use whatever resources he wanted to, in a radical conservative fashion, accomplish whatever he wanted. He was successful for a while. He is now being prosecuted. He is very likely going to go to prison for the rest of his life. And it is a symbol of what we can hope will happen in America. Because the radical nature of what he was in dictatorship, in anti-democratic authoritarian regime in Brazil, and Brazil rejected it. And
they got wise to it.
Exactly.
They learned.
And Gaga has referenced the new freedom that is going on in Brazil. I would also point out the LGBTQ community in Brazil. Your reference is accurate, but it's much more about economics. The separation between rich and poor in Brazil is gigantic.
It's enormous.
The poverty level in Brazil is significant. The uber rich in Brazil is very significant, and the middle class is very small compared to the United States. And that's what causes the statistical results that you're talking about. But the LGBTQ community is dynamic. It shocks people when I say the biggest pride celebration in the entire world is in Brazil. We're getting ready to do Stonewall Pride in among one of the gayest destinations in the world. And we'll have about 60,000 people come to Stonewall Pride. Yeah. Sao Paulo Pride has 2 million people come to their Pride celebration. And LGBT embracement has skyrocketed post-Bolsonaro, because Bolsonaro, as authoritarian dictator, makes the decision we're going to other someone. Who are we going to other? We're going to other the queer people. And he was able to get away with it for a while, and then has failed. And now he's in jail. And now he's going to prison. And not just because of that, but many, many things he did. So Gaga's concert is really kind of the cherry on top of what has happened in Brazil over the last 5 years. They survived, and now they're thriving. And I hope millions of Americans will go, we can be that again.
Now, I want to, fingers crossed. I don't want to take any, I mean, I've noticed in a lot of the conversations about this story, everyone's like, well, Madonna only did 1.6. Come on, people. 1.6 million people on Copacabana
Great
Beach.
for Madonna, too.
And she's a huge ally, too. And she didn't hesitate to bring us up at her concert. So let's not forget we had 2 allies, both equally successful.
That's right.
Same
Exactly.
monster.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Come on, Brazil, get one. Support our LGBT stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Buddy Frey, and let's queer up entertainment. Broadway gets queer and glorious at the 78th Tonys. The 78th Tony Awards are almost here, and it's going to be fabulous. Airing on Sunday, June 8th on CBS and Paramount Plus, the ceremony is packed with queer brilliance, hosted by none other than 2024 Out 100 Icon of the Year, Cynthia Erivo. The legendary Radio City Music Hall will once again roll out the red carpet for Broadway's biggest night. This year, LGBTQ talent and projects are stealing the spotlight. Leading the pack is Death Becomes Her with a dazzling 10 nominations. The Picture of Dorian Gray, Just in Time, and Floyd Collins each earned 6 nods. And let's not forget Oh Mary, which scooped up 5 nominations, and the long-awaited Broadway debut of Smash, landing 2 nominations. Surveys show that the Tonys are considered the most LGBTQ-dominated awards show in America. As queer audiences across the U.S. tune in, it's clear that the 2025 Tony Awards are more than just a show. They're going to be a queer celebration. Well, now, why is anyone shocked? I mean, how many...
No one's shocked.
I mean, how many queer people are in theater?
No one is shocked. This story is milquetoast.
Yeah, I mean, it's drama, it's creation, it's art, it's everything that we excel at.
Angel, you're a different generation than Buddy. Are you a fan of Broadway music? Broadway shows?
So don't take away my queer card.
Okay, that's a
Don't
big...
take away my queer card. I didn't know that Death Becomes Her. Like, I had to read about the Tonys. I don't watch the Tonys.
Yeah, you're young.
I'm young. But, like, Death Becomes Her, I saw the movie.
Yeah?
Like, it's
a strange one, but
it's a good movie. It's a good movie. And it has, so it was nominated for 10 Tony Awards, right? Like, I would definitely, right? So I'm not a big theater person, right? But for this Broadway show, I would watch it.
Well, we'll get you some training wheels.
We'll get me the queer card. Like,
no, you can keep it, but we'll get you.
It's very funny. There is a whole cadre of producers of Broadway that you've just shoved a knife in their heart.
Not intentional. I'm
not intentional.
I'm sure it's
and
not
here's
intentional.
the reason why. Broadway once upon a time, it still is, by the way, for LGBT, it is like oxygen. Broadway is oxygen for us, except the youngest in our community. And many people have theorized the reason is because we don't access Broadway in live. New York City is not a destination that young LGBT really travels to now, because we have so many great destinations, and we're going to Wilton Manors and to South Beach and to Palm Springs and Los Angeles, etc. And so Broadway is different than once upon a time.
Well, and also, to be fair, Broadway has gotten very expensive.
Yeah.
Even the least expensive shows are hundreds of dollars a ticket.
Yeah.
So, we have to be realistic too, that Broadway might need to have to figure out a way to come down in price to be more accessible.
Yeah. I've seen 4 Broadway shows in the last month, in the national tours that come in. I just saw Beetlejuice, which I did not like, and I saw MJ, I saw the MJ musical, which was absolutely incredible. Broadway is in our DNA, and one of the things that I think is great about the Tony Awards is this one specifically, how genius was it in the production, the producer's decision to make Cynthia Erivo as the host. She's sitting in the middle of the bookends of the Tonys in June, coming off of Wicked Part 1 with Wicked Part 2 coming, and she's right in the middle of it. Genius.
Also, she has a huge career on Broadway.
Yeah,
I mean, she's a Broadway child.
That's right.
She was born and raised on Broadway and got her chops on it.
That's right. If there is one thing that I have watched on YouTube more than anything else, it's performances from the Tony Awards. Go to YouTube and put in the Tonys, and literally you could spend 8 hours just watching.
But what's also important in the history of Broadway and the history of theater in general, the gay community was one of the safe places that we could be employed.
That's right.
And be ourselves.
And embraced.
And celebrated.
And the Broadway community, when AIDS became a firestorm in the late 80s and 90s.
And they still are huge fundraisers.
Broadway Cares, and the Broadway community protected the LGBT, especially gay men. We have gratitude from the LGBTQ community forever to the Broadway community of how much they have.
And we'll make it more
just
attainable.
Figure out how to get the
incorporate.
But we've got to compete against all of Netflix and all that other stuff.
Wait, no, that's not what they're competing against. They're competing against Grindr.
Well,
Grindr bars, hot guys.
That's a given.
Grindr, right?
That's a given.
All right. Well, that is a big LGBT story for today. There's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBT stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Al Ferguson, and let's queer up politics. Maine's governor beats Trump, restores meals while defending trans kids. The Trump administration has backed down now after a federal court blocked his attempt to cut off school meal funding to Maine, a punishment for the state's refusal to ban transgender girls from girls' sports. Under the recently announced legal settlement, the USDA agreed to restore access to millions in nutrition funding and stop using school meals to enforce President Trump's anti-trans order, at least for now. The move follows a tense February showdown at the White House between Democratic Maine Governor Janet Mills and Donald Trump. Trump demanded she comply with his executive order banning transgender athletes or lose all federal funding. She refused, and in the recent statement, Maine Attorney General Aaron Frey said, quote, "It's unfortunate that my office had to resort to federal court just to get USDA to comply with the law and its own regulations. But we are pleased that the lawsuit has now been resolved and that Maine will continue to receive funds as directed by Congress to feed children and vulnerable adults," end quote. Still, Trump's administration is pursuing a separate lawsuit threatening $250 million in education funding. Advocates say this is part of a broader campaign to roll back transgender rights. Meanwhile, the ACLU is tracking over 575 anti-LGBTQ bills nationwide as trans youth remain under political attack despite making a tiny fraction of student athletes. Well, at the end of the day, congratulations, Maine.
Right.
Donald Trump is a bully, period. He's a bully. And whatever at the particular moment that he wakes up at 2:31 a.m. and says, oh, I'd like to do that, that's the decision making that he does. I cannot imagine how pissed off he was on this decision, because there's nothing more, I suppose, that Donald Trump hates than not getting exactly his way. And here was the moment. I watched it live on MSNBC. The mayor of Maine was
The governor.
Thank you. The governor of Maine was in the Oval Office, and he called her out specifically over this issue of nutrition food, and for her to follow his instructions on the executive order. And she politely said, basically, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not what we're going to do. And he flippantly said, okay, well, I'll see you in court. Yeah, Donald, you did. How'd you do?
Well, see, now, I applaud, of course, Maine and the governor, but I'm saying this to everybody who watches the show, the allies, and I'm even saying it to the Republican MAGA people. There are less than 10 college transgendered athletes in a sea of 524,000 plus college athletes. There are probably less than 3 single transgendered athletes in the sports field in Maine, and you're going to impact tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people over 3 or 4
Food. To eat lunch.
So if you are that nasty, that mean, that selfish, that self-centered, the laws are there for a reason, and we're going to do it.
Did you open the dictionary under selfish and self-centered? Didn't you see Donald Trump's picture?
He was conceived under evil. I mean, come on. He came out conceived as evil.
Right.
But I'm just saying that Maine has shown every governor in the state and every politician in the state and every local community leader in the state or the country, to beat Donald Trump, you follow the law.
And fight.
And you fight.
Don't capitulate.
Don't make enemies. Don't tease. Don't, do whatever. Just follow the laws. Let it work out in the system, and eventually you will win. Yeah. And that's just how we're going to have to do it.
Yeah. Like, the Williams Institute, it estimates that 1.4% of the youth aged between 13 and 17 identify as transgender. In that region alone, right, that region, it's the Northwest region, or the Northeast region, there is 61,700 youth in that age group, right? And that's potential. That's in the entire region. That's not in Maine. That region includes New York, which is a huge city, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. For you to reduce school funding for an entire state, these are kids that go
and adults,
right? Like, it's just insanity. It's like, he's a traitor to democracy. I mean, this is not a patriot. This is not an American patriot. This is not a sane man.
No.
I mean, this is just, the youth, they say this is petty behavior. That's the word, petty, right? I
think it's stronger, but that's
okay. Stronger, right? And it's kind of sociopathic, but he's not really thinking logically, right?
No, he's thinking about his statues and naming shit after himself.
It's just not, trans kids are kids, right? And we're back to this thing where it's like trying to be empathetic and compassionate, and those things escape him.
I honestly, and I really believe this has nothing to do with trans.
No, it has nothing. It's scapegoatism.
It has to do with creating a boogeyman, creating an enemy, so we'll look over here and not look over here. And so let's look over here and focus on the 3 trans athletes in the state high school in the state of Maine so we can capture Social Security, eliminate U.S. aid, and all of the other terrible things that he doesn't want us to focus on. That's really what is going on here, and the court put a stop to it. Congratulations to the governor of Maine for making sure that happens.
Thank you.
That is a big LGBT story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBT stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ and ally community.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platforms.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support if our community is to grow and then thrive. We must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Angel Martinez and Buddy Frey, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBT world, we hope you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, be transformative, and queer. Good night.
Good night.